I can't tell you what I did Tuesday, but I can tell you everything I did 1966. It's really weird.
Huh.
So they come to me with I Think We're Alone Now in about November of '66, and they play it for me, and it's a ballad. Doom 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 doom. You know, children behave. It sounded like a funeral dirge, but you knew that it was a hit. That unmistakable chorus.
Yeah.
You just knew it was a hit. So I said, well, let's play with it. Let's speed it up. We go into the studio, and that's where he came up with the doom 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 doom. It was a thing I used to do to cover for not having a bass player.
Let's take a listen to it for a second.
Children behave, that's what they say when we're together. And watch how you play, they don't understand. And so we're running just as fast as we can, holding on to one another's hand, trying to get away into the night. And then you put your arms around me as we tumble to the ground. And then you say, I think we're alone now. There doesn't seem to be anyone around. I think we're alone now. The beating of our hearts is the only sound.
Those were trained crickets too.
I wanted to ask you about this song particularly and something that you mentioned in the book, because it was something I found really fascinating. So you're taking the demo of the song that Richie and Bo had done
Yes.
for you, go into the studio, you lay down the tracks,
Right.
but then you take that and you go back and you get Jimmy Wisner to
Right.
come and do an arrangement over the top of
right.
it. So the core thing is recorded. Jimmy adds all this stuff in, but you often mention that Jimmy tended to over-orchestrate an awful lot of music, and you guys had to go back into what you called finding the record.
Yeah. Well,
What do you
that's
mean
true.
by that?
Well, you know, my philosophy, once I started making records, was there's kind of a sweet spot in there where, you know, it's like sculpting. You know, you start with all this stuff, and then you rub that off and rub this off, and finally what you're left with is the record. And so you sound sculpt, I guess you'd call it. That's what happened with I Think We're Alone Now. But the interesting thing with this record, first of all, we changed studios. We went to Allegro.
Okay.
Jimmy became our George Martin. Bo and Richie were brilliant and became my first producers. All happened with I Think We're Alone Now.
Yeah.
We changed our sound. Literally changed our style, our sound. Up to that point, we'd pretty much been a garage band. With I Think We're Alone Now, we really made a left turn and accidentally invented bubblegum. And that really is true, you know. I mean, we didn't mean to. It was like, oops! And with that little, the reason I say that is because later that year, a production team called Kasnitz and Katz began producing a group called the 1910 Fruit Gum Company, and of course everything they did was sort of a cartoon version of I Think We're Alone Now and Mony Mony, you know, and their style then became bubblegum. Well, of course that unfortunately fit us in a retro way, so those 3 or 4 records that we did right there were called bubblegum, but hey, I love to chew. I do. I love bubblegum, and I love pop music, and I love it was just so right for the moment. And that, of course, was Jimmy. Jimmy, I want to tell you one other thing. Jimmy, first of all, was a quality arranger. He's the last of a dying breed. He became the head of A&R at Columbia, did Barbra Streisand, Tony Bennett. I mean, this is a truly schooled orchestrator. So he would take these little ditty-bop nursery rhymes that Bo would write and and there's this bizarreness about these things. You know, put cellos and and horns and add a symphony behind these silly little songs, and that became sort of for the next year or so became our style, and that's all Jimmy.
What I think is amazing about the way you describe it is these kind of I say simplistic, but in the best way. These
Yeah.
kind of straightforward songs, right? Building these orchestrations, but then coming back at the end, like you said, and sculpting them. Because when you listen to something like I
Sure.
Think We're Alone Now, you're not overpowered by a full orchestra playing. What you get are these moments of things kind of
Yeah.
coming out through the song, right?
Sure, and the whole album was like that,
Yeah.
and we scored, well, 3 major hits, and we had our first cover record, a song called Baby, Baby, I Can't Take It No More by Verdell Smith, who was a great R&B artist for Capitol. And so the I Think We're Alone Now project was a completely successful project for us.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how important that was to us because it really allowed us to continue beyond being a garage band.